this thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Yeah.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Good morning. We were talking about recruiting earlier. Texas A&M has 56 4- and 5-star players, and they lost by 3 touchdowns to Mississippi State on Saturday. 56 4- and 5-star players for the Aggies. Recruiting. Get the right people on the field with Kinetic Staffing. Find the talent you need to achieve excellence. Legal and professional contract and career positions. KineticStaffing.com. Build your talent bench. Leverage their extensive talent network. Let Kinetic Staffing be your talent scout. Executive search and long-term staffing leader. KineticStaffing.com. Alan Lang and the team at Kinetic Staffing will get the right people on the field. We welcome in our friend Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, LSU Saints insider. Mike D joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Mike D, LSU's continuing to find a way in tough games. You go to the Plains, that's a difficult place to win. LSU and Auburn have had some epic games, and you get out of there with a W, and it looks like slowly but surely, methodically, that this team is getting a little bit better every week, Mike.
Yeah, I think the disappointment is we all know that Auburn's not a good football team, and you fell behind 17-0, and you clawed your way to a victory, and that, a couple of years from now, ain't nobody going to remember, other than the fact that you won. And I think Brian's trying to build something here. And I think it happens to every coach. I heard Nick Saban talk about it a lot when he first came to LSU. Sean said it, but in a sort of different way about there comes a point where you have to start believing in us as coaches. Just believe in us. We're going to put you in the best spot to win. And I think that Mississippi State game was that for LSU. But something he said last week caught my attention, and he said, we're going to go through some difficult times and be ready for that. And we got to be more than just fighters on the field. We got to be able to execute better. And I think he's telling you without telling you is, my offense isn't there yet. Defensively, LSU, they gave up a couple of big plays against Auburn, but basically that's what won it for them. Their defense did, and they got some talent on defense. They got some guys that can swarm to the ball. But offensively, how many games do you win not throwing for 90 yards passing? Very few. And so he's sort of telling you without telling you, hey, look, we're going to fight. We're going to give you everything you want. But, having fight doesn't mean that, you're going to meet up with an opponent that you can get caught in the buzzsaw if you don't execute out on the field. And knowing who he plays this coming Saturday, I get it. Because they're the hottest team in the SEC from an offensive standpoint.
Sure.
In Tennessee. I mean, Hooker's done a great job, and he's
been amazing. He has been amazing, Mike.
He impressed me so much in his understanding of the quarterback position. He came to Manning, and we got to talk for quite some time, and he talked about his troubles and maybe not being the guy at Virginia Tech. And he came to Tennessee. It was going to be Mooney, right? That was Milton. It was going to be him. He was going to be the guy. And he beat him out. And he talked about, listen, you got to just tune it out. That you're going to have I forget what term he used, but he was like, listen, every Yahoo's going to have a comment about you when you don't play well. Everybody's going to have some comment. And you got to understand that you're playing the quarterback position and you're going to get a lot of ugly comments made about you, good and bad. and so you got to accept it. And he said, I matured when I got to Tennessee, and I got put in the right spot, and it was about fit too. I think it's a good fit for him.
Sure.
Where the offense and his talents merge so well, and listening to him talk, he almost said some similar things to what I heard Joe Burrow say at LSU. And, so I'm interested to watch that game to see LSU's defense go up against that high-powered offense. And Hooker's been scorching hot as far as putting points on the board. So be interesting, 11 o'clock game in Baton Rouge. That means you don't have a lot of time to put that antifreeze in the radiator. But I'm sure they can do that Friday.
Man.
But it's an unusual spot. It's different playing that game at 2:30 or 6:30 than it is at 11 in Baton Rouge. And again for Tennessee, they had an off week. They had a week off, so how they adjust to that, how they handle success, and they've had it. They certainly had it. And how can LSU's offense crank it up? Because if this cannot turn into a shootout game for LSU. If it does, they ain't going to be close. Tennessee's going to beat them, and pretty good. If LSU can keep it close, then, they got a shot. But I got to see it first. I got to see it first because I have watched Tennessee's offense, and they have really been good. And I give a lot of credit to Hooker with it because he sounds a lot more mature than the 22 years of age he is. He gets it, and he spoke about all the other quarterbacks from the SEC and how they've all going to go through. They've all had their times, and because he sat right next to Will Levis. I got Will, and then I caught him because they sat next to one another, and he talked about Will and how he struggled at Penn State to get on the field, and he heard Will say, "I'm going to have some struggles this year. I know it." And he talked about Richardson, who was to his left, about he doesn't have a lot of starts as a player at that most critical position, and so you get it, man, and you're so impressed to hear him speak, and how he handled himself. And Bankin, he spin the rock, he can spin it, and it's his accuracy and touch that really jump out at you because he has that, and man, he's got a set of mitts on him. When he grabs a football, it's almost like tip to tip. I'll send you a picture when this is over with. Him and I took a picture together, and take a look at the size of his hands. When he grips a football, he has got some mitts to catch it, and then it's hard to knock the ball out of his hands. That's all I can tell you. He's got some big, strong hands, and he can flip it.
Mike Detillier on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Yeah, I don't understand why he's not getting more love.
Because of who he's with, and he sort of said that last year, them winning the games they did kind of put them back on the map. But he said we got to win some signature games to have Tennessee back, and he said consistency, and he said that's his biggest goal, is to be a consistent player. And he sort of echoed what Levis talked about and what Richardson talked about, the consistency of the game. And he had more starts, because that's what he's telling me. I got more starts than those two guys combined. And, you think about it, because Richardson, he started one game and Levis started at Kentucky, but, he was basically a Taysom Hill type player at Penn State.
Right.
And so he got it. He understood that they're going to have to win some big games. And going to Baton Rouge and to play LSU is a big game for them because he did speak about that he was looking forward to it because he said, when you play in the SEC, you hear about playing in Tiger Stadium. And he talked about Tiger. He did say, I think, Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night, but it's going to be a Saturday morning.
So, Mike, I don't understand why Hendon Hooker is not getting strong consideration after C.J. Stroud in the draft. Watching Will Levis over the weekend, it looks to me like Will's got a long way to go. I know he looks good in the uniform.
Well, let me put this. I got this from a real good source that he entered that game with some injury issues to his shoulder.
I did not know that.
And that may have well been part of it. To me, he did not look like the same guy I'd seen in the past that could move around.
He held the ball in the pocket.
Because he's really a movement guy. He's really a guy that kind of walks around the pocket. He doesn't stay like a statue, and that's what I saw. So I think that there's something to that he may have had an injury that they kept him in tow. He was a little off, and listen, it happens. And again, for him, he brought up similar to what I said about Hooker, about I don't have a ton of starts under my belt, but man, because Will's a really good athlete. That jumps out at you right away.
How about this?
But you didn't see that.
The OC did not move him around, which maybe is where you're going, because he was like a statue in the first half, Mike D.
I think part of that is the injury. I'm fairly sure.
Okay.
Because I would say that looked to me, he did not look like the same guy that I've seen in the past that would move around the pocket and he's got some wheels. He can run, but he just stood there, and so that tells me maybe he's trying to play through something, and I get it. And he held the ball a little bit too long, and believe me, you don't have the 5 blocks of granite protecting him. That's the one thing about this Kentucky team that's different from maybe the past couple 3. Is that they were really good up front along the defensive lines. Were you impressed with Kentucky's defensive lines?
No.
They weren't. That's not taking anything away from Ole Miss. Ole Miss dug themselves a gully and got out and ended up finding a way to win, and that's the only thing that matters.
No doubt.
But I was not really impressed up front. And again, Will understands that in those type games, he's going to get the blame. Just like if Hooker doesn't play well, he's going to get the blame. It's just part of the position that you're playing there. But, both are talented kids, just like Richardson out at Florida. I think Billy's trying to find a place that's comfortable for him because you see it in like spurts, okay, where he really plays well, and then he throws a couple passes that are El Stinko. You're like, what the hell was he looking at? So it's just trying to kind of form a niche there, and a lot of that, too, is experience. When you think about, that's the one thing LSU's got at quarterback with Jaden Daniels, because he's an experienced guy. He's been there, done that at Arizona State, and he's got much more experience than basically all the guys in the SEC, with the exception of Bryce. And Will's got quite a bit also.
So here's
at
what
Mississippi State.
Somebody told me Bryce weighed in this summer. We're visiting with Mike Detillier, LSU Saints NFL insider. Joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line, brought to you by Sound and Communications, top quality audio visual, soundcomav.com. Mike, so I was listening to people talk about Bryce this summer and how he weighed in, at like 170 pounds. I know he just got the AC sprain. He's small in stature. I guess my point is, do you think that Hendon Hooker played well last year? He played well against Florida, and Florida did not give up and kept coming after them. He can do it with his arm and his legs, which is what the NFL is looking for. My question is, why is he not getting serious consideration for the buzz right after C.J. Stroud? That's where I'm going.
I think a lot of teams are looking at him as a first-round pick, and so am I. I see him
fabulous.
in that range, but some people don't. Now, you'll have all the geniuses come on in November if he gets hot and tell you, "Well, I had him on from day one." No, they didn't. But that's just human nature. Well, I knew it. I just didn't say it. Well, if you know it, then say it. No, Hooker is a first-round pick talent.
Yes.
At the quarterback position. What I think NFL people are looking for is now the consistency with it, because you see it. He's a tall drink of water. I mean, he's sort of thin build, but he has filled out. He's got great height. He can move around the pocket. He's got big hands. He sees and recognizes receivers very quickly downfield, which is impressive to me. But it's his accuracy skills from the pocket. That's the key for any quarterback coming out. His ability to throw the football accurately from the pocket. And we've seen it. Now, I think for NFL people, they want to continue to see that. But, man, can he make some plays on the move, because he does have that other element, that ability to run and make some plays with his feet. But in the back of your mind, how many people thought Joe Burrow was a first-round pick his first year at LSU?
That's a great point. Great point.
And, how couldn't he beat out Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State?
Right.
That got thrown out. They got a Fox that has a national show for 3 hours every day that threw that out when he came out for the draft. Now, all of a sudden, he's in love with Joe Burrow. He forgets all the other comments that he made about Joe. But, from down here, we heard it enough that, exactly. And listen, nothing against Colin, but he was, he's got this segment, Colin right, Colin wrong. He was wrong about Joe Burrow, dead wrong about him as a player. And we all go through it. If you're going to evaluate and make those comments,
sure,
and it's out there, then you got to, come on, just say you're wrong. When you're wrong, you're wrong. You're not always going to be right about it. That's not, you're not human if you're doing that. But I do believe that with Hooker, the more it goes, Bo, the more he's going to get a lot of attention.
I'm telling you, he's what they're looking for.
He's going to get a lot of it. But you know what? It's a really good fit. And I think he even mentioned that at least twice in the interview I did with him, of that offense fit him so well in what he could do. And he credited Josh and the offensive staff for putting him in a position where they could take the best of his skills and utilize it. And you can see, man, it's round peg, round hole. I think what he was telling you without telling you, when he was at Virginia Tech, they didn't do that. They wanted him to do something differently.
No. Yeah, look, Heupel's done a great job. For our listeners, we're talking about Hendon Hooker, quarterback at Tennessee. Maybe the best quarterback in the conference, and that includes Bryce. And Bryce is a hell of a football player. But, man,
but if you put
6'4", 220 plus, good grief.
But if you put him side by side, he towers over Bryce.
Oh, and what he did
over.
In the second half against Florida, Florida wasn't going to go away, and Hooker was he that was game of the year. That he had the game of the year for a quarterback to date, in my opinion.
He really looked good, and who got all the ink going into the game?
Anthony Richardson.
And because you see this great potential.
Sure, he's still young.
With this young man, and he got some skills.
Hey, and here's what I'll give AR. I'll give Anthony Richardson this too. Mike D, you see it every week when you go to Saints games and LSU games. That was a hostile environment, and Richardson he played well, man. I know Hooker played better, But I was impressed that Richardson didn't back down from the moment, even though he had a couple of bad games, against Kentucky and so on. I was impressed with him.
Yeah, because when you walk up to Richardson to talk to him, you think you're talking to a tight end. I mean, he's built like a tight end. He's a big, tall man, but he's filled out, and he's got a rocket for an arm. And that was never a question about that. And his athletic skills are on display each week. He can run. But I think with Richardson, what you see is sometimes a lack of experience in understanding where to go with the football when his first read is taken away. And I know Billy is trying to get him to understand that, okay, this process has to slow down a little bit for you. You can't just be, I look downfield, my primary man is covered, so I'm going to take off and run with it. Okay, that might work a little bit from time to time, but if you go through your second read, that guy's wide open. You got to be a little bit more patient, and sometimes because you are so gifted, you say, man, the hell with this. I'm running with it. I'm taking off with it. And that's his kind of natural skill set because that's what he did in high school and early on at Florida. I don't think Dan really got with him and said, okay, this is how it's going to be done. I think Dan said, okay, if the open man's not there, your primary guy, just take off with it. But Billy's going to be different with him because he understands his future is more than at Florida.
Right.
Billy understands that his future is more than at Florida. And he's a little different because, when you think about Levis, it didn't work out at Penn State. He goes to Kentucky. You think about Hooker, it didn't work out at Virginia Tech. He goes to Tennessee. Okay, you look at the kid at South Carolina, it was sort of shaky toward the end. He goes to South Carolina from Oklahoma. A lot of these guys have sort of bounced around a little bit. With Richardson, it's just a lack of experience at that quarterback spot at the collegiate level. People say, well, he played high school. Okay, it's a big jump from high school to college. If you think that's a big jump, wait till you jump to the NFL.
Yeah.
That's an even bigger jump.
Wow.
And Patrick Mahomes, think about him as a rookie.
He redshirted.
Played one game, the last one.
People don't understand how big a deal that is. Hey, real quick, I got 30 seconds. Ole Miss offense, what do you think?
Man, when it's good, it's good. But it does have its start and stops.
They've only scored 3 points.
They run the football well. And
yeah.
I think that is impressive because of, I guess, injuries and some inconsistent play along the offensive line. I like the fact that they can run the football.
Sure.
It takes some of the pressure off a Dart.
Yeah. No, I agree. Judkins is phenomenal. Boy, they found him in the Birmingham metro area. Kid's playing like a 5-star.
And the Evans kid's
he's good too. No doubt.
Yeah.
Mike D, have a great week.
They got a 1-2 shot. Thank you, Bo.
See you, buddy. At Mike Detillier on Twitter, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications. Top quality audio and visual. They provide leading edge audio visual for churches, businesses, and sports facilities. SoundcomAV.com.